Hello everyone, welcome on in. It is Betting Weekly Game Bet Match and the tennis season is only 2 weeks old and we're straight into the first major of 2025. It's the Australian Open from Melbourne. Before we go into the show, please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Lots of content coming your way on the tennis and we want to make sure you're ahead of it and across everything we're doing here on the Betting Weekly studio. So hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be alerted of every time a new show drops. Did I just say looking ahead to the Australian Open, looking at the tournament winner and the quarter bets, the prop bets on the tournament with Bet Rivers is our senior ATP Tour handicapper. It is Sean Calvert. Good morning to you, Sean. Straight into the Australian Open. Here we go.
Straight in, isn't it? Madness. It's absolute madness. A lot of these players haven't even played, have they? You know, look at the head of the market, Sinner, Medvedev, Alcaraz. Have you seen anything of them this year?
No.
No, and now we're playing one of the four biggest tournaments of the year, and we're trying to sort of second guess who's playing well, who's carried over from last year, who's got a bit of an injury, who's feeling it, who's not feeling it. Very difficult, but that is the tennis calendar that we've got. I mean, probably shouldn't get me started on that because I could take up a good 45 minutes probably just on the tennis calendar, but it is what it is. So we've got to solve the puzzle.
It is what it is indeed. And, I suppose looking at the bracket, looking at the draw, the question of we're going to come on to it in a little minute, but really it's a question whether you can get the front two in the market beat Sinner and Alcaraz. We had years and years and years. You look at the previous winners of this tournament, you had years and years and years of being dominated by Djokovic, Nadal, Federer. And we thought, that should be a competitive time. They've all gone and it seems to be back to just two guys dominating the game again.
Yeah, it's not great for outright value seekers, is it? Men's majors. In the career that I've had in the last, we've had as well, the last sort of 15, 18 years or whatever it is, it's been dominated by, 4, 5, 6 guys, basically. So, yeah, that's where we are. We've got a new sort of top two at the minute. Let's say Djokovic, let's say this is his last season, which it probably will be. It's looking very much like Sinner and Alcaraz, if they can stay fit, are going to dominate for a little while. There's some exciting young players coming through, but just at this moment in time, the next couple of years, it looks like Sinner and Alcaraz are going to be the two that are just battling out for everything.
Bet Rivers do have a special on the website if you want to bet it. It's Sinner and Alcaraz not to win the tournament, either one of them not to win the tournament, plus 180 if you want to take that price. So it's heavy minus money favourite that Sinner or Alcaraz wins it. And that's the kind of conundrum we have. Obviously, Bet Rivers do offer each way betting on the tournament. You might find someone in the opposite half of the draw because Sinner and Alcaraz are positioned in the same... Are they? No, they're not in the same bottom of the draw, are they?
Alcaraz is in the bottom. Sinner's got the much, much easier draw.
Sinner's got the... I've written down my notes here and I've got them completely wrong. Only been into 3 minutes of the preview and already made my first mistake. But let's have a look at what are we looking for in a winner. I mean, if you look at the previous winners, like I said, Sinner won it last year and it was the first time since Stanislav Wawrinka in 2014 that either Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal's name wasn't on the trophy. Yeah. And then prior to that, you've got to go back all the way back to 2005 to Marat Safin. So that's how much of a domination it has been by those three players.
Yeah, I'm still dining out on my 2014 Stanislav Wawrinka win at 66-1 or whatever he was. But it's been slim picking since then, hasn't it? As you said, it's only Sinner, Djokovic, Nadal or Federer have won it since 2014. It's the cream of the crop rises to the top, doesn't it? At this particular major, it's people say, it's the start of the season, you get more upsets. Well, not really. You might get a couple in the first round. Maybe, a couple of big price ones in the first round if you're lucky. But as far as unfancied winners, I wouldn't say Wawrinka was particularly unfancied. He certainly wasn't unfancied by me back in 2014. Safin certainly wasn't unfancied when he won it. So, it's been a very, very long time since each way value seekers have found a big price winner. I think Cilic made the final, didn't he? A little while ago, 33-1, but. Yeah, slim pickings. It generally goes to the best players.
Yeah, it does go to the best players. Before we move on to the tennis, you just said I'm the cream of the crop. I rise to the top. Or better yet, a Terminator like Arnold Schwarzenegger, trying to play me out like as if my name was Sega. Do you know that?
I do recognise the lyrics. If you just give me a second.
I thought you...
Hang on. No, I do.
I didn't think...
Is it jump around?
Jump around. He's going jump around. Yes, I didn't think you would get that, but there you go.
You know,
jump
you go
around.
in my era. If that had been any record in the last 20 years, record, you see, I'm still, this is the terms that I use. You know, I probably wouldn't have got it, but yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, I must have heard that tune about 1,000 times.
Brilliant. I didn't think you would get it. I thought you looked at me as
when
I asked you who Taylor Swift was before. You looked at me as if to say,
I don't know.
You jump around, you get it straight away. That's
I've heard of her, but as I said, I wouldn't recognise her if she was next to me in the co-op. That's for sure.
I'm sure she doesn't shop in the co-op. She shops in Lidl's. Let's have a look at the tournament. Obviously, before we go into the brackets, we've got Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. We're going to discuss. We also have the tournament winner market as well. But before we go into that, the weather doesn't look too good, and the conditions are a bit uncertain. So, what have you delved into the stats and the trends? What have we got to find at the Australian Open in Melbourne?
Should we do the conditions then? The playing conditions? Yeah, so it's played on a green set outdoor hard court with Dunlop AO balls, the same as the warm-up tournaments that are still going on. Corda's playing at the minute against Kekmanovic on my screen on the left there. So the conditions are as it's been for the last couple of weeks. As usual, the players have got a beef with things. These days it tends to be the balls, doesn't it? Last year, several of the players were saying it played really slow at night. Obviously quicker in the day. If it's hot, that's kind of a standard thing in tennis anyway. And they were saying that the balls fluff up quickly. So it's only probably worth looking at statistics from the last 2 years of this tournament when they've played on this surface with these balls. Because, you know, the conditions have changed a lot over the years at the Australian Open, different surfaces, different balls, whatever. So last 2 years with these balls, averages 81% holds and 72.5% first serve points won, which puts it in the sort of medium category, I would say, in terms of court pace. Still quite a lot of tie-break matches, though, even though they're saying these balls, fluffing up. There was an average of 56% of the matches have featured a tie-break in the last 2 years with these Dunlop AO balls. And as usual, it's pretty low in terms of underdog winners, 26% in the last couple of years. That's actually slightly higher than it was before. It was down at sort of 22% a few years ago, this tournament for underdog winners. But last couple of years, slightly higher. As you said, the weather, I mean, I'm sure the players will appreciate it. The weather doesn't look like it's going to be a big factor in the sense that in previous years, the Australian Open, when I was there, way back when, it was 40. And they had to halt play for the extreme heat policy that they have there. But that doesn't look like it's going to be the case this time. As far as I can tell, there's no day that's going to be over 30. Starting off the first 3 days around about 27 degrees. You know, it's warm, but it's not brutally hot. It's been about 40 in Melbourne in the past sort of couple of weeks. I think it's going to be about 33 today, tomorrow as well. But when this tournament starts, if that advanced weather forecast is correct, there's nothing really. 27 Thursday, it's going to dip to sort of 23. There's a few thunderstorms around. 24 Friday, 26 Saturday. So not brutally hot, which sometimes is something that you have to factor in when you're looking at the Australian Open. I mean, as far as trends are concerned, there isn't much really other than the fact that it's dominated by market leaders. You know, as we said, only those main guys have won it since 2014, and only a couple of times have we seen big prices in the last sort of 10 years or so. I say big-ish. Nadal was 12-1 when he won it a few years ago, and Federer was 25-1 when he won it, going back about sort of 8 years or whatever, when he was towards the latter stage of his career. They didn't fancy him at all, and he won it 25-1. But other than that, slim pickings for your value seekers.
Yeah, as you say, favourites dominate the market, dominate the tournament. And in these prop markets, a couple of the favourites are dominating their quarters as well. Let's start by looking at Q1. And it's where we see defending champion and the overwhelming world number one at the moment in time, Jannik Sinner. He's had a big year last year, obviously, end of the year winning the Davis Cup. Hasn't played yet, as you said, which is a bit of a question mark for bettors or people who want to fade him as well. Sinner here is minus 250 to win Q1. The Q1 he's been candid has been a very, very relatively, very easy section, really. Doesn't really have any tests until he gets to the fourth round where he runs into probably Hurkacz and Rune. But he does play Nicolas Jarry in round one, which could be a little bit difficult, but you would expect him to get through that. Sinner is minus 250 favourite to win that. Alex de Minaur is the most likely sort of opposition at $8. And then we go into like the journeyman really of the tennis world, Holger Rune 16, Tsitsipas is probably looking for a bit of a bounce back from last year. Berrettini, injury prone. Hurkacz has played a lot of tennis already, long matches in the United Cup. He's 22-1. Very hard to oppose Jannik Sinner in this Q1. I know you're not really a favourite bettor, especially not at minus 250, but it's just virtually impossible not to oppose him. And I can't see any way we can't get to the semi-finals.
It's a great draw for Jannik Sinner, isn't it? Not just in this quarter, but in this half. Away from Alcaraz, Djokovic, Zverev, all those guys are in the bottom half of the draw. And here's Jannik Sinner in a quarter that, just looking at it now, it's really hard to see anybody beating him, isn't it? Statistically, de Minaur is the best in terms of service points won and return points won titles on hard courts in the last 12 months, which is why he's second favourite. But can you really see de Minaur beating Sinner over the best of 5 sets? Not really. And unless Sinner's kind of ill, injured, he does have a bit of a history of physical issues. But that's kind of we're clutching at straws, really, aren't we? I can't see anybody other than Jannik Sinner winning that quarter. It would be a huge surprise to me if he lost to anybody in there. I mean, Rune, Tsitsipas, it's not going to happen, is it? I don't think. Berrettini, not over 5 sets. You wouldn't have thought. Night match doesn't seem likely. Hurkacz, maybe, if he improves his return game a little bit, he can be. He's probably the trickiest one if he does get Hurkacz. But again, it's difficult to see him winning 3 sets out of 5 against Sinner on a hard court. Can't see it. I think we better move on. The Sinner minus 250. It's not my. I wouldn't bet it, but then again, I'm not betting in this quarter. I have got bets, obviously, in a couple of the other quarters, but I just can't see Sinner getting beat here.
I suppose the other thing with Sinner, I mean, he's been very, very fortunate with the draw. He's been very, very fortunate with the way the quarter is sectioned that, but he's also been very fortunate with the weather, because if it was 40 degrees and he was in a 4-set or long
that
4-set,
could be an issue. Yes.
That could be a big issue for Sinner. So the way this weather is forecast is panned out, and the way there's a bit of rain around as well. They're probably going to schedule him where it's a lot cooler as well, being defending champion of the world #1. It's very hard to see where he can slip up. And the only obvious places he can slip up are in the latter stages when potentially the final. So Jannik Sinner, it doesn't please us to say this, but at minus 250, the only person who could probably beat Jannik Sinner in Q1 is himself. So Jannik Sinner, the man to beat, and obviously so, and it's priced up accordingly with BetRivers at minus 250. Make sure you head across to the BetRivers website, download the app, and head across to the website to see all these markets. There's player performance specials. There's going to be matches on the first round as well, which we'll cover tomorrow for you here on Betting Weekly Studios. Let's move on to Q2. Now, this is an interesting heat. This is a very, very wide open quarter. Really, really interesting here. Taylor Fritz is the favourite with the American #1. It's plus 275. He's got I wouldn't be betting him at price 275, that's for sure. Daniil Medvedev is obviously a beaten finalist here a few times now. He was beaten finalist last year. I think 3 times he's been a beaten finalist here. He's got the form in this competition, plus 335. Andrei Rublev is up against João Fonseca in round 1. It is the match of the round 1. I can't believe the price on Rublev. The drift on him and the money for this young kid, Fonseca, I'm not quite sure if I'm
price
buying
is doubled, hasn't it? I mean, he's great.
Unbelievable.
He's a great player,
but
Fonseca. But yeah, I mean, if it was best of 3 sets, you might say those prices on that match are maybe slightly accurate, maybe, but over best of 5, 18-year-old kid, it's probably not. It shows you how good he is. The fact that he's been priced up 4th favourite here to win this quarter.
Yeah,
if you've not
that's
seen,
wrong though. That's got to be wrong. I think that's wrong.
They're saying this kid is going to be that good. Loads of players are saying that he's going to be top 5, top 10, well, certainly top 10, top 5, maybe. It's very difficult to predict at this early age for him, but he's priced up that price because he's that good, and he's entertaining as well. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of him over the next few years. He's a real sort of breath of fresh air. The way he plays, he goes for his shots. I think he's going to entertain a huge amount of people over the next few years. But I wouldn't bet him at plus 750 to win. Even if he beats Rublev, you can't imagine he's going to blow him away in straight sets. Probably have to go 4 or 5, and then you get into the stamina side of things. That's the other thing about players in majors, isn't it? You've got to look at their sort of stamina and fitness record, not just their ability, but Yeah, he's a class act, Fonseca, but I wouldn't be backing him at that price.
Yeah, if you're new to tennis and don't know much about this is a kid called João Fonseca. He's an 18-year-old Brazilian player who just won the Next Gen series, and he's an absolute talent. But he's been drawn against Andrei Rublev in the first round, and Rublev opened up around about minus 250 to win the match. He's now like minus 135 or something like that. It's a huge move for him. Everyone wants to back this João Fonseca. This is his first major, I think it is as well. And he'd come through qualifying exceptionally well. He won 6-4, 6-love, 6-3, 6-love, 6-4, 6-1. He didn't drop a set. But now he's been drawn up against Rublev. Probably a good matchup for him, really, because Rublev could have a complete meltdown and find the pressure incredible on him. But It's incredible to see an 18-year-old kid at plus 750. We'll talk about him in more detail in the match bet show, which is coming up as well. You've got Ben Shelton 11, Giovanni and Pecci Perigard, big server at 16, TFO 16, Monfils at 25-1. Just staggering to me that Fonseca is double the price of Pecci Perigard and TFO, really. But he is a talking player. I want to fade him. I'd want to fade Taylor Fritz as well. Have you got any angles in Q2?
Yeah, I have. I've got one at 33-1 in this.
This sounds good.
In this quarter, I think this is where you have to go in majors. You know, the quarter winners. I think Sinner's going to win this, to be perfectly frank. But am I going to back him at plus 130, whatever he is? I can't really. I mean, I know a lot of people will, but you know, it's not for me. Second quarter, I'm going for Alexei Popper in here, 33-1 with Bet Rivers. I think that's too big. It's certainly too big on statistics. If we're just going on pure stats, the top guys in terms of service points won and return points won totals in this quarter are Fritz on 106. Rublev's on about 105, 106 as well. Medvedev 104.5 and Popyrin 104.4. So Popyrin stats are virtually identical to those of Medvedev. Medvedev, in case people don't know, is not even, I don't think he's even arrived in Australia yet. Or if he has, it's been in the last day or so because he's been at home. His wife's having another baby, so he hasn't actually even turned up in Australia yet, I don't think. Or if he has, it's within the last sort of 24 hours or so. So he's had no preparation at all, or the preparation he's had is not ideal. It certainly isn't in Australian conditions. If you remember Medvedev, we backed him last year, didn't we? And it was a pain, wasn't it? It was every match was a war, wasn't it? First match I think was against Rusevori, and he ended up winning it about 4:00 in the morning or something ridiculous. 5 sets against Hurkacz. Everything was a struggle, wasn't it? And then he went 2 sets up on Sinner in the final, ended up just completely running out of gas because of everything he'd done. So statistically, Medvedev shouldn't be that short. He's not a great preparation either, and he does tend to take a little bit of time to find his best tennis. And as I said, his stats are virtually identical to Popyrin, who's a Masters 1000 champion, beat Medvedev on a hard court in Paris a couple of months ago, 2-3 months ago at the Paris Masters. Also beat Taylor Fritz here at the Australian Open in 2023. So he's beaten the two, and he beat Rublev, of course, in that Masters final in Canada, wasn't it? So he's beaten the top guys in the betting for this quarter. He's got statistics which are very, very good indeed. Certainly better than the likes of TFO, Monfils, and Pecci Pericard, Shelton. Better than all those guys. And yet he's 33-1 in his home tournament. Should have done better than he did last year. Should have beaten Djokovic here last year, actually. But now he's got that belief. I think he lacked a bit of belief in that Djokovic match. I think now that he's also beaten Djokovic, of course, beat him in the US Open, he's got that belief. So I think 33-1 is some way too big for him to win this second quarter.
Yeah, that does seem a big price. Alexei Popper in 33-1. I mean, he is when he's on form, he get that serve going. He was brilliant. And I was at that match in New York. We were on him at 6-1 to beat Novak Djokovic, weren't we? It was a fantastic night we had there in New York that we didn't get into the early hours celebrating, and hopefully we can do the same again here. But Alexei Popper in at 33-1 with Bet Rivers to win Q2 is our first official play of the Australian Open 2025. Let's move on to Q3. West is where it's probably a difficult, very, very difficult quarter. We've got Carlos Alcaraz in there and Novak Djokovic in there dominate the betting. I just can't have either of them, really, to be fair, honest with you. Jack Draper at 14-1. The Brit, who's did well at the US Open, but obviously physically he's got problems as well. Grigor Dimitrov pulled out of his tournament coming into this, very much for our sort of annoyance where we tipped him up 16-1.
Had three of those, haven't we?
Yeah, three.
Three outright injuries already in the first 2 weeks.
Incredible. And yeah, Thomas Mahak 20, Lehecka 25. Sebastian Korda 33-1. Quite interesting, really. Korda's playing well at the moment. Is he
He's just
through to the final?
He's just won. He's just beat
Yeah,
Kekmanovic, so he's in the final.
That's an interesting one there because he is a player that on his day we were betting him at 33-1 to win majors not so long ago, and he's 33-1 just to win the quarter. And it's an Alcaraz that we don't know much about, and Djokovic, who I think is an absolute massive fade. Anything caught your fancy here in Q3?
Yeah, I think this is absolutely loaded. This draw. I mean, this Q3. This is probably the best quality quarter of the whole draw. You know, you got Djokovic in there. His first match is against Basavaredi, who's, you know, we know what he's been doing recently. And then you got the Czech players in there. Dimitrov's in there. You got Jack Draper, Kokkinakis, you know, Korda, all these guys. It's such a loaded draw. The thing with Alcaraz, you know, I'm sure this isn't going to continue, but he hasn't played anything like his best tennis at the Australian Open so far in his career. He does have very similar stats to Jannik Sinner, hence, you know, his second favourite in terms of service points won and return points won total. Sinner's on 113 with a 93% win rate, by the way. Alcaraz 112 with an 82% win rate. Those two are, you know, a little distance ahead of Djokovic on 109, Zverev on 107. Alcaraz, interestingly, is using a heavier racket this year, I've been told. One of his coaching team has come out and said he's using a heavier one, trying to get more power and weight of shot. You wouldn't have thought that was something that he particularly needs, but obviously he does. I mean, this is the time, where the off-season just gone and sort of nowish, that these players are trying new things. You know, I'm sure Medvedev will come here trying different things just to try and get that little 5%. You know, give him a bit of an advantage over the previous season, and that apparently is what Alcaraz is doing. But you know, that's something that, you know, it's when players change the rackets like that, it sometimes doesn't go well. You know, it can take time for an adjustment like that to bed in. Plus, we know that Alcaraz, as I said, hasn't played his best at the start of this season. Maybe he's the sort of player that does need, you know, a month or so or several weeks to get going in the season. So he's minus 110, you know, not for me. Djokovic plus 140, again, it's too short because there's so much quality in this third quarter. I'm taking a small interest in the two Czechs here, Mahach and Lehecka. I think those two are the good prices in this third quarter. We know Mahach can beat the best. You know, he's already beaten Alcaraz, beat him in straight sets in Shanghai on a hard court. You know, and Alcaraz didn't play badly, by the way, that day. Sometimes when Mahach is playing, when it's flowing and the confidence is flowing, he's virtually unplayable. I know it's going to be harder for him over the best of five. He did have a slight injury issue, but because of that, he did pull out of last week's tournament. So hopefully he's going to be fit. He's also beaten Djokovic. He beat him in Geneva when you were there last year. He also lost in a final set tiebreak to Djokovic in Dubai on a hard court. So we know he's got the level to beat both of these market leaders over the best of three. Hopefully he can do it over the best of five, because he will play Djokovic, you know, relatively early on, assuming he gets through, which he should do, looking at the draw here. So I think Mahach will be a big test for Novak Djokovic, and Lehecka is also in that top half of this quarter, and he's up against Dimitrov, who he's beaten several times, and obviously we know that Dimitrov is carrying some sort of an injury issue. So I think Lehecka's got an excellent chance there as well. We know he's at his best in Australia, just won Brisbane, won Adelaide last year. Again, loves the sort of lively conditions. He's an obvious choice, really. And these two would meet in the last 16, Lehecka and Mahach, if they get through. Therefore, one of them will be in the quarterfinal. And that they would then play either possibly Alcaraz, maybe Seb Korda, you know, maybe Jack Draper. You know, that's the quality of this Q3. It's so many good players in here. I don't think it's a given that Alcaraz is going to get that far. I mean, he probably will, but
he's got Jordan Thompson as well, the Aussie. That'd be a night match. That'll be a tough match.
Yeah, Jordan Thompson will. Well, I imagine Jordan Thompson could. I don't think he'll beat him, but he could extend him to a long match. But Draper's certainly capable, of beating Alcaraz. We know that he's beaten him before. Korda's played him pretty close as well. I don't recall their head-to-head off the top of my head, but he certainly pushed him very, very close. And we know he's got the ability. The worry about Korda is the fact that he's only played 2 matches since the US Open, so his fitness and stamina, is perhaps under question. But it's a quality quarter. I think the 2 players that catch the eye are certainly Mahatch and Lehechka. So I'm taking both of those in this third quarter against the 2 obvious choices, Alcaraz and Djokovic. Djokovic, we don't really know, do we? I mean, he's just lost to Riley Opelka. He's another one trying new things. Andy Murray's come in, fresh voice, try a few different bits and pieces and, sort of see what happens. But plus 140 at his age, no, not for me. So, yeah, the 2 Czechs, I think, make some appeal here in this, quite a lot of appeal in this third quarter.
Yeah, I'm a massive fade of Djokovic. He could run into Opelka. Obviously, Opelka plays. He's got to play Mahak in the round 2. I think
he's not fit either, is he? Opelka?
No, Lehecka. He plays with Lehecka in round 2. The thing is here though is the Djokovic is the fade for me at plus 140. I do like Sebastian Korda plus 33 to 1. He's the kind of fella that we've met so many times. Yeah. His father won the tournament before the Australian Open many years ago, went on to win it, and I bet him that year. It was only 50 to 1, but he beat Marcelo Rios in a very one-sided file. But
only 50 to 1.
Well, I mean, talking to some of your big winners, you've had 300s and 200s, and you've had some big
ones. Not in majors.
I'm talking to the man who's bet massive prices.
Not in majors.
Yeah, I think Mahak, Lehecka, Korda, all those kind of 3. And if you look at the head-to-head record between Sebastian Korda and Carlos Alcaraz, it's 4-1 to Alcaraz, and surprisingly, Korda beat him in Monte Carlo on the clay in 2022. That's the record there. Let's move on to the final quarter, Q4. Alexander Zverev, who was very popular at the end of last year to win the Australian Open. I bet him at the end of last year to win the Australian Open. Then he was playing so well, and then he sort of didn't really go towards it. At Paris. He didn't play so well in the next match. He didn't play well at the Tour Championships either. But he's plus 130 to win this quarter. He's up against Tommy Paul in there. Felix Auger-Aliassime through to the final to face, I think it's Sebastian. Is it
Korda?
Yeah.
Korda.
He just beat Tommy Paul this morning. Ugo Humbert is 12. Artur Fils, who has been tipped up by me at 300 to 1 on the Bet Rivers newsletter. He's currently 80 to 1. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but we've got a little bit of value there. Casper Ruud, 16 to 1. Jakob Mensik, very good talent player, 20 to 1. And Nick Kyrgios, who's on the comeback trail, the Aussie, is 22 to 1. Zverev's been given a decent draw here. I was very pleased with my draw when I took the 12 to 1 at the end of last year. I was very pleased with my draw. I sort of wrote it off a little bit.
You on the each way?
I'm on the each way. I've sort of I've got excited again by it. But yeah, I'm very pleased with the draw. I think he should come through this section.
He should. It's simple as that. He should come through this section. Plus 130. I'm not sure I'd be better at that. I mean, Tommy Paul is the worry, really, I suppose, if you have a worry in this section. He's beaten Zverev on both occasions that they've met so far. Paul's 2-0 head-to-head over Zverev. Tommy Paul also made the semi-finals here in 2023. Just lost to Felix, though, yesterday. Is he in that sort of form? Well, we don't really know. He's only played a couple of matches so far. We haven't seen much of Zverev either, a bit of United Cup action. But, yeah, I mean, who's going to beat him in this section over the best of 5 sets? Nobody, probably. Tommy Paul, I think, is probably the obvious choice. Casper Ruud, can't really see it. I mean, he's played pretty well at the start of this season, Ruud, but he's never really shown that much at the Australian Open. Fils is a dangerous one. Again, the longer the format, best of 5, the harder it is for these guys. I could certainly see Fils beating Zverev over the best of 3 if it was that, but it's a lot harder to beat these guys over the best of 5 in majors. Mensik, I think, as I said numerous times, is a talent, but again, best of 5. Not sure about that. Humbert is he's anybody's guess, isn't he? He could be brilliant. He could have a part to play in this quarter. He could lose in the second round or whatever. Kyrgios, I think, is very, very short considering he's barely played for 2 years or 18 months or whatever. So many problems with his wrist. It's very difficult to see Kyrgios going a decent distance over the best of 5. having not played for so long, having had a wrist injury, a really bad wrist injury. Now he's had an abdominal injury after one or two matches of the comeback this year so far. So Zverev's the obvious choice. I mean, Paul, I think, is potentially, if you are sort of fading Zverev, you feel like Zverev's not going to make it, then I think Tommy Paul's your man. Felix, I think, is too inconsistent. Yeah, that's it. I think maybe take a punt on Tommy Paul, maybe. But in all likelihood, Zverev should come out of this fourth quarter.
Yeah, Zverev is plus 130. The value lies certainly elsewhere. Q3 loaded, some big price picks there. And Q2, we've got that massive price on Popperin. Now, the most important thing is who's going to win the Australian Open Championship. As I said, the market is dominated by the front two. Plus 135 is the price for Yannick Sinner. Carlos Alcaraz is plus 325, and Novak Djokovic is just behind them at plus 450. Massive fade Djokovic for me, 450. Cannot have him on my mind. Yannick Sinner, as you said, is probably going to win it. You said that you think he will win it, but at plus 135, potentially no value. I'm guessing, Sean, that we're looking at someone at a big price in the bottom half of the draw that could come through here and take on Sinner in the final and try to get the each way value. He's probably worth throwing a few darts at a couple of players, but what's your thought process here?
It could be worth throwing a couple of very small darts, maybe a bit of 9-inch, 7-inch pizza money or something very small. These outrights, I just can't see Sinner. I can't see him not making the final. I mean, from that draw, I mean, he's odds on to make the final, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think it's about 1.67 or something like that to make the final. I can't see him not doing it. Then you're into who's he going to play? Well, probably Zverev or Alcaraz, maybe Djokovic. That's basically it. If you are going for the each way value, I'm not having a bet on the outright. I've had my bets in the quarters. I think you're much more likely to get a result there than you are back in big price men in majors. You know, in recent years, it's been a real kind of, it's been poor, hasn't it? Let's be honest, in terms of trying to get big priced men into a final, particularly of the Australian Open. So I think the guys that I've mentioned for the quarter, I mean, the two Czech players in Q3, I think if they do get through there, they could have a part to play at big prices if you do fancy having a bit of pizza money and a big each way. But I think it's Sinner's to lose.
Yeah. Lehecka's 250 to 1 with Bet Rivers, and Mahak is plus 150 to 1. Lehecka's in form. He's won a tournament already this year. Plus 250 to 1. 125 to 1 to get to the final. It's
a tall order, but as I say, it's really only worth a bit of pizza money. I just cannot see Sinner getting beat unless something weird happens, illness or injury or something else that I haven't thought of. Alcaraz, I'm not sure about, particularly given the talk of him with this new racket and heavier racket and slight changes, and he is a player that takes a while to get going. Djokovic for me is just a bit too old to be that sort of price. My worry with Zverev is still mentally. Does he really believe he can beat one of these guys, one of the top three in a Grand Slam final? I'm not sure that he does, but the place money, I think, is perhaps the way to go. You've got that bet already. That I wouldn't put anybody off that. He does have a pretty decent chance of getting to the final. Medvedev, I'd be very surprised. Fritz is a possibility. If it's not going to be Popperin, then I think Fritz is certainly someone that's got a chance of getting to the semis. But is he going to beat Sinner over the best of 5 sets in a major semi? I wouldn't have thought so. So yeah, it's kind of as you were, really. I'd be very surprised if Yannick Sinner doesn't win this unless something weird happens.
Fritz never got close to him in the US Open, did he?
No.
I mean, he never got close to him at all.
He just isn't that, Sinner's that good. Fritz is a very good player, but, Sinner's on a different level.
Yeah. Yannick Sinner, not really a sort of a pick that we're going to be putting out here as an official play, but at plus 135, he is the most likely outcome. He is probably the winner of it. He will win back-to-back tournaments. I agree with Sean and myself. I think Yannick Sinner is. I tried to look for some value elsewhere on the draw. I went for Alexander Zverev before the draw at 12 to 1. I think that on the draw itself, he could be the each-way value. And I've also got, on anyone who's got the newsletter from Ben and Wickley Studios, you would have found out that we were on Artur Feast at 300 to 1. He's now 120 to 1. Not going to say he's going to win it, but we've got 150 to 1 about him getting to the final. That'll give us a run for our money. So if you haven't got the newsletter, make sure you subscribe to bettingweeklystudios.com. Just put your email address in there and you'll be on the main list every Monday for the newsletter. For me, Djokovic plus 450. Big fave for this tournament. Alcaraz at plus 325. Too cold. Tournament he doesn't do well in. Not for me at all. And it just means an obvious play. Yannick Sinner plus 135 to win the tournament. If you want to follow us here on the Betting Weekly Studios, make sure you subscribe. I said it at the top of the show, we're very, very close to 7,000 subscribers. That is all your help. And amazingly, on these shows, only about 50% of you actually are subscribers. So the other 50%, please do us a favour. Please hit that subscribe button. Please ring the bell. You'll be alerted every time the content comes. And the content over the next 2 weeks is coming thick and fast. We're going to have an extra show each week on the men's draw, looking here on Game Bet Match. And on the women's draw, we're going to have 2 shows a week. One on the outright market, and then we're going to have a best bets of the matches this week. So 2 this week and 1 the following week, the best bets for the individual matches as well. So lots of tennis content coming your way. And also tennis is going to take the main stage on Betting Weekly Live, where one of the handicapping team each day will be live at 4 p.m. English time, 11 o'clock Eastern, here on the Betting Weekly Studios YouTube channel. So please subscribe, please follow. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us your pick. Give us any picture. Do you agree with Sean? Do you disagree with Sean? Let us know what you think. Put them in the comments box below. We're trying to form a betting community here. I want to hear all your opinions and let us know what you think, who you think will win the Australian Open Championship. Can Sinner get beat? We don't believe so, but what do you think? Sean, that is it for today. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
We will be back tomorrow to give you the best bets on round 1. Looking forward to that as well. But at the moment, we think it is Australian Open Championship for Yannick Sinner. And all I can say now is jump around.